Hi, my name is William Mapioc. I'm the catering chef here at Augusta Health. I'm going to be walking you through a really fresh and refreshing gazpacho. It's a cold tomato soup. This is something that you can make a couple days ahead of time before you serve it. Really let the flavors get together. It holds well in the fridge, and it's really easy to make. We're going to be just chopping up all these vegetables, popping it into a little container here, and hitting it with an emulsion blender. If you have a regular stand blender, you can do it in that as well. It even works in a food processor. So it's really simple. We're going to start with our tomatoes here. We'll just get them right in the container. This is roughly, if you're following around in the cookbook, the Pritikin cookbook, this is roughly 1.5 pounds. I'm bumping this recipe up a little bit. You can adjust the quantities of any of these ingredients as you prefer. If you like a little bit more cucumber, peppers, or lime, you can make some of those adjustments on there since it's all just pureed vegetables. This is about 1.5 pounds, a little bit over that, of tomatoes. I'm gonna go ahead and pop those in my container here. I'm going to use a green bell pepper for this. If you prefer yellow or red, feel free to use these. It'll give a little bit more sweetness. I prefer to use green for a gazpacho only because I feel the bitterness can offset some of the, sometimes the tomatoes can come in a little sweet, and so it kind of just balances it out a little bit. But feel free to use an orange or yellow or red pepper. For this, I'm actually just gonna cut this pepper in half right there and just scoop that part out. Just take the seeds out just like this. I'm not going to nitpick how this is gonna be cut since it's all gonna be blended together. But I do wanna make it into manageable sizes. So I'll just cut some strips here, line them up. And cut them small to medium dice is fine. The smaller you cut it, the quicker it will be to blend up. Now this, all in all, is about 1/2 cup of pepper. Once you've kind of cut everything, a little bit more than 1/2 cup. In the book it mentions about 1/4 cup. Depending on how big your peppers are is how much your yield is. I'm using 1, but if you get them a little smaller, you can use 2 or 3 to make up that difference. Onion, I'm using a yellow Spanish onion. I'm gonna cut the top off here and then cut this down the middle. This is about 1/4 cup as well in your cookbook. If you were to look at this whole onion, it would be just under 1 cup once it's processed. I'm only gonna use 1/2 of the onion. The other 1/2 you can save and use it for whatever you feel like. If you had a smaller onion again, you would just use just 2 onions or however you felt like many you needed for the recipe. I'm gonna leave this little root stem right on here. It's gonna keep all my layers together. And then just come down right through that layer. I'm not cutting all the way to the end. And then it's all in one chunk now, so it makes this part a little bit easier. I don't have to chase anything around the board. I'm gonna pop that in there. All right, we are going to add to this the cucumber right now. This is about a medium-sized cucumber. I'm gonna be doing, the recipe calls for about 1/2 cup. I'll probably do this one and a smaller one here to get a little bit more than that. This is actually where a lot of the water is going to come from for this to help puree up all these vegetables and to give us that nice, soup consistency. Cucumbers have a lot of water, and we are going to be utilizing that to our benefit to make the liquid for this. This recipe doesn't need any vegetable broth or anything like that, so you're getting all the water contents coming from these vegetables. So I'm going to just peel the cucumber. And I'm doing this because the peel has a lot of bitterness in it. We do not want that bitterness to lend itself to the gazpacho as it sits. I mentioned in the beginning of the video, gazpacho is something that you can make ahead of time and let it sit in your fridge and kind of let the flavors really come together. If you were in a rush, you wouldn't have to peel the cucumbers. If you were going to serve it day of, you're not really going to notice that bitterness come out. But if this is something that you're prepping ahead of time for an event, you are going to want to make sure you peel your cucumbers to kind of make sure we don't have that flavor come through. It can get overpowering. Just gonna. All right, I'm gonna cut the ends off here. I'm going to cut this lengthwise down the middle. I'm going to show you actually 2 ways to take the seeds out on this first one. First one, if you've been following along with the video series in the tzatziki video, you'll see that I did this. You can grab a metal ladle like this, and it's the perfect little thing to just slide right through there and take that little bit of seed out. Alternatively, you can cut it in half. You can cut those halves in half so we have quarters, and then very gently just put your knife at an angle and just slice it out just like that. Don't have to worry about removing every last piece of seed. It's not really going to affect the flavor too much. All right, got all that out. Now this one again, we're just gonna kind of chop up. That in there. Now to this, we're going to add a couple cloves of garlic. This is already peeled garlic. Comes in a variety of sizes, so use the size according to your taste. Again, you can see that this clove is a little bit larger than this clove, so use as much or as little as you like. This is something else that, like the onion, it can provide a little bit of an astringent, bitter flavor to it. So if it's not something you like, you can actually opt to leave the garlic out. I prefer the garlic. I'm not going to use a whole lot though. I usually line up the cloves for something like this application where I'm not having to slice each individual one. I just line up the cloves with the little stem right there, that little root part where they come out. Try and keep them aligned on the cutting board and then just give them a couple little chops. So I have all my garlic there, and this is not going to puree very well in the blender, in a blender or a food processor, so we're not going to use that. That's going to go in there. And then we're going to add some lime juice now. Limes are very, you got a lot of good flavor. The zest is very good to add to this when you serve it. I really like that fresh lime zest flavor. The juice is going to give it a nice little acid kick to it. I would not put the zest into the soup though. You could garnish with it, but I would not add it in there. Over time, that's another thing, just like the cucumber peel, as it sits, it can get a little bit bitter, and it can really take over and mask a lot of the other flavors. The lime, the easiest way to get the juice out of lime, if you have a juicer, feel free to use that. If you don't, put it on your cutting board, just gently, gently press down to break up all that membrane, and it should get nice and soft. We're going to take the lime and just cut it in half. This is the bulk of our work right here in this container. And I'm going to be doing this in a clear container so you can kind of see. You really can put it in whatever sort of thing's easy to blend in if you're using an emulsion blender. I'm going to add to this a little smoked paprika. I'm just going to move this over here so we can get the blending. Again, a lot of the water is coming from the cucumbers and the tomato juice and everything like that. This is mostly blended all the way, and right now what I'm going to do is add a little bit of cilantro. This is optional. Some people don't like cilantro. I didn't put it in the beginning because this is a delicate herb, and if it gets blended a lot, if it gets agitated a lot with, through a food processor or something like that, it'll start to discolor. So I usually try and do it halfway through the blending process so it keeps that nice green, fresh color. You don't need a lot. That goes a long way. And I'm just going to tear this up. And just get to blending it again until it continues to get smooth. So at this point, our gazpacho is done. Now, I would advise tasting this to see if it needs to be seasoned any further. You could add a little bit more cilantro or lime juice or smoked paprika as you like. Another great flavor combo for this, which I actually am gonna add, is just a little bit of vinegar. Red wine vinegar, apple cider vinegar, sherry vinegar works really well, champagne vinegar works really well. It's just a little bit of balsamic. You do not need a lot. You should taste it first only because tomatoes are acidic, and if you feel we're putting lime juice in it, so if you feel it's too much of an acid bite, you can opt to leave the vinegar out. I'm going to just put in a splash. That is more than enough. You do not need a lot. All right, our gazpacho is done, so it's time to plate. This can sit in the container for a couple of days. It is, it's fine. It's just like any other cold soup. It will be better the next day. Trust me. We'll take this. You can blend this as smooth or as chunky as you like. I usually like to have the texture in there, the vegetables. I don't like a completely smooth gazpacho. Very lovely. So, I can smell it. Really, really fresh flavors out of there. I'm gonna do a little bit more cilantro to garnish. Just chop it up. You could also garnish with some fresh lime zest or a little squeeze of fresh lime too, if you want to have that on top. Very nice, refreshing, wonderful summer dish to have, especially with some nice crusty toast points to dip in there. Wonderful, delicious. For this and other heart-healthy recipes, please visit us at AugustaHealth.com.